Newness stimulates dopamine, but newness will always go away. There's communication skills and attitudes and approaches towards the opposite sex that can raise testosterone in men without having newness. And this is a huge breakthrough.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
We are live from the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios today in Laguna Beach. And today's guest is absolutely spectacular. Everyone, you're going to love who I have coming on here. He's a famous author, speaker, just incredibly talented person and a friend. And John Gray, welcome to the I Own It show. What a pleasure. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today to chat.
Yeah, happy to be with you.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So I wanted to start off with a very basic fundamental question. I've been hearing that our audience wanted me to ask you, how different are men versus women? And where do you believe are the biggest differences?
Okay, on the surface, we're not that different. And when we're really happy and fulfilled, everything's going well, we're not that different. But we have a whole stress mechanism inside of us that's very, very different. To a great extent, when men are stressed, their first reaction is to discount what's bothering them, to minimize it. No big deal. Can't do anything about it now, so I'll just forget it. No problem. And a lot of women today, because they seem to be producing more male hormones because they're in a more masculine environment, doing more traditional masculine things, they might feel that way a bit too, but not nearly as much as men. They'll tend to experience, whether they're on their male side or their female side, when they're more on their female side, when they're stressed, they want to talk about what's bothering them. They want to connect. They want to share. By sort of processing out loud and having someone be present with them, they produce female hormones. Their estrogen levels go very high. And when estrogen goes high in a woman, her stress levels will go down. When estrogen goes high in a man, his stress levels don't go down. As a matter of fact, when estrogen goes up, in many cases, if he's stressed and more estrogen gets produced by talking about what's bothering him, he'll become more stressed. So this is a huge difference. You know, we have to look at talking can be very beneficial for women if the partner can hear her, whereas talking too much from a man's point of view actually can make him more emotionally needy, passive, irritable. And many women report to me when their husbands talk too much, they're really turned off.
Interesting. So maybe,
then if you want to know a few other big differences, I mean, very commonly, men are wired with testosterone. Testosterone needs to be 10 times to 40 times more than a woman for him to feel good. It just depends on his body type, but he needs to make testosterone. And testosterone goes up when you're solving problems, fixing things. I call it Mr. Fix-It-Hat. And women often complain he doesn't listen. He does listen. He just interrupts with a solution that would be the way he adapts to the situation, which is often to minimize the importance of what's bothering you. Or if you can't do anything about it today, just forget it until you can do something about it. How many times men will say to women, just forget it, let it go. And women like, you're not listening to me. You can't hear me. You don't understand. So there's a great need in women, again, to produce more estrogen than men, way more estrogen. Women need to make about 10 times more estrogen than men in order to have well-being, and 20 times more estrogen if she's going to have romantic feelings towards him. So this is huge differences. Okay, well-being and happiness are all regulated in our biology that supports our mind and attitude. The biology has to be resonant to your body type. And if you're not producing the right balance of masculine versus feminine hormones, man or woman, you're going to be stressed. And this is simple knowledge. And so now what I've done is explained a lot of skills and tools to help men increase women's estrogen and help women increase men's testosterone. And then suddenly you can experience, if you're in an intimate relationship, you can experience what no generation in history has ever experienced, which is going beyond the honeymoon period, but for the rest of your life, having passion, great sex, attraction, because traditionally, that honeymoon period where you feel all these great hormones that make you feel really connected to your partner and passionate and so forth, playful, all that stuff. It gets stimulated automatically by the newness of a relationship. Newness stimulates dopamine. And for men, when there's newness, testosterone goes up very high. And for women, when there's newness, if she feels safe, estrogen levels go very high. But newness will always go away. It's gone after a few months, after a few years, that you don't feel that same excitement. People want that. If they can't sustain it, they often don't want to get married or make a commitment or so forth. And what I explain is that my method, and understanding how significant these hormones are in men and women, there's communication skills that can, and attitudes and approaches towards the opposite sex that can raise testosterone in men without having newness. And there's things men can do for women that will raise estrogen levels to the romantic level without there being newness. And this is a huge breakthrough. So we're no longer dependent upon, going on weekend getaways and to get a little bit of spark. You can create it every week.
How do you create it every week? What are some advice you can give everyone out there? People are married for a long period of time, or some people enjoy chaos in their life, have trouble with relationships. What do you do to keep that spark alive?
Well, this is a big subject. I just finished teaching it for 2 days. I could teach it for 7 days, but that's why I've written these books. The one that really explains the hormones of men and women is Beyond Mars and Venus. Men Are from Mars, my classic book, has a lot of the basic information how men and women are different. The problem today, and that has helped so many people, millions of people, to understand those tools that I teach in that book. But today, people have changed. Women are more masculine, period. Men are more insensitive. They're more in touch with their emotions. What that means is that their hormones can easily go out of balance. When women are in the workplace, they're producing male hormones. That's going to raise their stress levels if they're not also making the right balance of female hormones. So it's all about balance, right? So there's research showing that when women are doing traditional male jobs, that means money, working for money rather than nurturing for love. Okay. Traditionally, for thousands of years, women worked, but out of love for their family. And men would serve other people to provide something for their family. If we go back far enough, they're out in the jungle doing things, risking their life, doing the dirty, the dangerous, the difficult. And we're happy to do it, no complaining, because it raises high testosterone, which is a stress reducer for men. But high testosterone is not a stress reducer for women. We have to get that. But see, when women go to their male side, they're more stressed. And when they're stressed, the brain has a bias. When you're stressed, the brain starts looking at what's wrong. And then when you look at what's wrong, that produces dopamine and makes it more addictive to look at what's wrong. So women get home from work and they start looking at what's wrong in their life rather than what's good in their life. This is like powerful addiction. And then they want to see what's wrong. So then they want to correct it. So they complain to their partner. And when they complain to their partner, it knocks down all motivation in him, biological motivation. See, men in the beginning, women think, oh, I found the right guy. He's so motivated. He's so interested. But that motivation comes from high testosterone, which is produced by the newness. Later on, you're not going to have the newness, the dopamine in the relationship. What you have is what we also want, which is serotonin, which is comfort, ease, feeling relaxed. You come home, just to give a sense of what men want in a relationship. And it's also really what women want as well. As if somebody told me once, the definition of a friend is someone who delights in your presence with no intention to change you. What a great relationship where your partner's not trying to change you. Well, that's sort of unrealistic today, because when women come home and they're stressed, the brain goes into a bias to look at what's wrong. And now it wants to change you and her situation. So she thinks she's going to feel happy and feel better, which is a big mistake, using complaining to get more in a relationship. It doesn't work. How do you communicate your complaint? How do you get more in a relationship? Well, you don't really need that much more in your relationship. It's a bit of an illusion. Your brain thinks you want more because you've got what you need. You're just not using it. My mother always taught me, if you're unhappy, you're looking in the wrong direction for your happiness. When women are with a man, they look to him as a source of her unhappiness, trying to make him a source of her happiness. She has to find the happiness within herself by doing things that will raise her estrogen to balance out the things she's doing that's raising her testosterone, and learn a new skill. So I'm all about learning new skills that your mother couldn't teach you. And the skill is how to stop complaining and ask for what you want. Now, some mothers would complain and get nothing and keep complaining. Other mothers tried to be positive and didn't complain. But women don't have a picture of how can you be positive and ask for more. It's very natural once you understand how to do it. But the key is understanding the language that men speak, so to speak, and for a woman to communicate in a way where he can hear you without feeling like you're criticizing him, without feeling like you're giving him the message that he's not good enough, he should change, as opposed to, you can ask me to do something. It doesn't mean I have to change who I am. You just have to motivate me. And women don't realize that you have to motivate men. Men are motivated by reward. And in relationships and in the dating stage, yeah, he was so motivated to please you. He only wants to make you happy. But there's a dynamic. It's like when a man climbs the mountain, he feels like, okay, now I can relax. He gets in a relationship. It's like, okay, I did all the hard stuff. Now we get into our routine. But that routine is comfortable. For example, she knows I love her, so why do I need to tell her? Well, I tell my wife every day, honey, I love you so much. When I make love to her, which quite very regularly, you can't stop having sex. That also kills the passion. Even if you don't feel like it, you got to have sex. And, again, when I say that, I think of the women saying, what? I have to have sex? Yes, you have to have sex. But what if I don't feel like it? So many women tell me that their husband wants to have sex. They have sex with their husband and they're not into it at all. But after a few minutes, after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if he's good at foreplay, she suddenly starts to want it. Because women don't walk around with high testosterone levels like men wanting sex. But through stimulation, the correct stimulation in the bedroom, he can raise her estrogen levels by providing some gentle, non-goal-oriented, loving stimulation. Her estrogen levels will start to rise. And when a woman's estrogen levels start to rise, maybe 3/4 higher than the normal level of happiness, has to go higher and higher, then suddenly there's a hormone gets produced called luteinizing hormone. And then this hormone raises her testosterone. And so suddenly she starts wanting sex, but only after you've been having sex for 15 or 20 minutes. So it's a delayed reaction. It's very important that women see this tendency inside of them. There's nothing wrong with them, but just you may not want it, but you love your partner. You want to connect with him. It's enjoyable to connect. And men have to learn not to be so goal-oriented at that time, but we do need to have regular sex. It's very important if you want to keep the passion. There's research showing that when a man has sex with his wife on Saturday night, his testosterone will go up and they'll have some wonderful experience because his testosterone going up will also raise her estrogen and vice versa. And that's sort of the buildup of increasing passion in the bedroom. And then he does it on Saturday night. And traditional men, they will ejaculate when they have their orgasm. Now, you can learn as men to orgasm without ejaculation, but that's another subject.
Yeah, but, we'll talk about that at part 2. But keep going.
Part 2. Well, there's books on that too, but I'm happy to talk about it. I teach it. And so what happens is he ejaculates, then his testosterone will go down to what's called base level. So everybody says that, we'll just do what the research shows. It goes down to his base level, and then it will stay there. Say on Tuesday, he has sex again. And after sex, his testosterone will go down to base level. And then he will have sex again on Saturday night. It will go down to base level. Now, men who go back down to base level, every year their testosterone goes down 1%. This is what we see at all age and all categories of men. Their testosterone levels are going down, 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 down. But not all men. I'm in my 72nd year of life, and my testosterone levels are either 50% higher to 200% higher than when I was a young man. And this is all primarily by good relationship skills. Rather than needing newness or drama or anything to pump up my dopamine, my wife and I have good communication skills that knock up my testosterone as it knocks up her estrogen. So communication can do it regardless of having to have a new body, new skin, new vacation, whatever. We can do it on a regular routine. So that's understanding. Nobody's ever talked about this, by the way, that having testosterone and estrogen go up without depending upon newness. This is all new information. It's also the whole book, Beyond Mars and Venus, is those skills in a relationship that bump up testosterone. But coming back to the man who has sex on Saturday night, his testosterone goes down to baseline, keeps going down year after year after year, the passion goes away. What she wants is to feel like that. She wants to feel that man's interest and passion in her like it was in the beginning. So the research that was done by the Japanese showed that if a man ejaculates on Saturday night and doesn't ejaculate for 6 days, on the 7th day, his testosterone will be like it was in the beginning of the relationship without the newness. Just take that in. It will go up 50% to 100%.
Wow.
And that's because he abstained from sex, from ejaculation for 6 days. So imagine he makes love with his wife and she doesn't want to have sex on Tuesday. Usually couples average out around 2 to 3 times a week. We're talking after the honeymoon phase. They do twice or 3 times, try to keep up with the Joneses, whatever it is. And usually she's not into it. He has to sort of push it on her, or maybe she's pushing on him, whatever. But mostly the guy's like, hey, let's do it. She's not so much into it. Well, part of why she's not so much into it is your testosterone levels aren't what they were in the beginning. Now, if you're a mature man and you're in a new relationship and you're in love with your wife, in the very beginning, there's no rush. It's like a 7-course meal. There's no wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's like every moment is so delicious. That's what women want. They want to be savored. They want to be raptured. They want to feel that you're not in any hurry. There's no goal, but you're just enjoying them and loving them. And that only can occur in a man's body if his testosterone levels are at the level they were when he fell in love with her. But if you keep having sex all the time, it goes down, down, down. Now, I know for some people go, oh, what a bummer that is. Well, if that's a bummer for you, just try it and see how much better sex is once a week. Now, on average, certainly you go on a vacation where there's newness, you're going to have naturally more hormones getting produced. But, the routine of life, you got kids, you got all these things going on. You came home from a stressful day at work. Don't push sex. Do it once a week, and you'll see how much more delicious it will be. Now, once you do that for like 3 months, then you got this higher testosterone level when you're with your partner. That's when you can start to learn how to give up your addiction to ejaculation and learn to create the waves of orgasmic pleasure. And the woman becomes multi-orgasmic, the man becomes multi-orgasmic together. That's a possibility. Books are written about that. And there's YouTube videos of different approaches to that. It's a new thing. I was teaching my class just this weekend, and already 3 men in the audience were doing that. Their wives said, "Oh, my husband does that," And so what's interesting is that, and they had learned from me. But the interesting thing about this is when I begin teaching these ideas of men having orgasm without ejaculation, it's the wives who sort of forbid it. There's 3 reasons for that. One is she's not enjoying sex, because if you don't ejaculate, you can have sex for a long time. You don't feel that urge to ejaculate.
John, is it getting hot in here, or is it just me? Let me ask you something. So some of the pitfalls, like especially,
that's not the only reason. I got to finish the sentence though.
Go ahead.
And for some women, it's not that she doesn't enjoy sex; it's that she doesn't think that he loves her if he doesn't ejaculate. And what I want to explain to women is, when men ejaculate, they roll over. They disconnect. Their testosterone goes down. It takes a while for the testosterone to build back up. If he doesn't ejaculate, that testosterone never goes down. He's always feeling connected to you. He's always feeling motivated to you. This is like the new goal for relationships, which is learning how to build testosterone and estrogen without the need for dopamine, and that creates the addiction to ejaculation, by the way. Free yourself from the addiction to ejaculation, and another hormone gets produced in your body as a man. The hormone is called prolactin. This is measurable, and prolactin actually inhibits his desire to be with another woman and creates the monogamy state, which is what we all want. Every woman wants, whether she says it or not. She wants to feel that she's the most special woman in his life, and she can satisfy him. He doesn't have to go to another woman.
So are you advising men and women not to masturbate? Is that what you're using from your teaching?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. when you masturbate, you completely empty out your passion juice. You want to give that only, if you're going to use it, don't do it too much. As I say, if you do it once a week, you'll have more.
Same thing with women.
What is that?
Same thing with a woman.
Same thing with a woman. Absolutely. They're showing that women get addicted to clitoral stimulation. They can't have vaginal orgasm. Vaginal orgasm is where it's at. That's the multi-orgasmic. Clitoral stimulation stimulates testosterone in a woman. And the last thing women need today is more testosterone. There may be some few women who are low in testosterone and then clitoral stimulation. But usually if they're low in testosterone, they're also low in estrogen because they got what's called adrenal burnout. That's why so many women go through the menopausal or have menopausal negative symptoms is the body can continue making hormones after the eggs stop making them. But at that point, your adrenal gland has to make them. And they will never make as much estrogen as before, but you don't need such high estrogen as long as you don't overwhelm your estrogen with more testosterone. I have students well into their 70s, multi-orgasmic women in their 70s. I don't have any in their 80s yet, but I don't know any in their 80s. So this is all possibility. We can all have this amazing, passionate sexual experience, but masturbation for both men and women is a huge, it depletes your body's ability to make high levels of these hormones. It also desensitizes the clit, just as for men, when they do porn, my gosh, over time, they can't even be turned on to a real woman because the brain sets it needs so much dopamine to produce that testosterone. So even my Mars Venus techniques for increasing testosterone in men and women, estrogen in women without dopamine, some men who've been masturbating, it'll take a while before the brain can let go of that addiction, but it can, eventually it can let it go by not masturbating. It's a huge, huge addiction.
On a more personal level, I've always wanted to ask it, what inspired you? Everyone wants to know to dedicate so much of your life to this subject of improving relationships of men and women.
Well, if you just hear what happened, I mean, when in my class, just this weekend, at 45 minutes, people wouldn't stop telling me how helpful the seminar was. It actually, it's a little frustrating because some of the people say they'd already gotten help from me from my book. I kind of want to say, well, how about the seminar? Did that help? Of course. But, just to hear women talking about, I took your class, I read your book, I met this man, I have the best relationship of my life. I love him so much. Like there was like 30% of the class was couples whose lives have been changed just from the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, or the new one. Some of them were about the new one. Because see, what's happening with the new information I'm putting out on hormones, everybody today knows that women's hormones are way out of balance. And one solution is, okay, take hormones. And that's works for some people. I can't say it doesn't work for some people. It doesn't work for everybody, and it's costly, it's expensive, and maybe in rare cases, it's the only solution. However, what I'm talking about is change your attitude, change your behaviors, shift your focus, be in a relationship that stimulates estrogen, and women don't need to take these hormones. And for men, be in a relationship with a woman who can provide the support I'm talking about, as long as you have a job, and your testosterone levels will go up. And these guys are talking about it. One guy was saying, I was 400 testosterone, now I'm 600, just practicing the once a week thing. It's amazing. I just love getting the confirmation. So you asked why I got into all this. Is back when I was a counselor, all I got was people telling me in one session their lives were changed because they don't understand men and women are different. A simple thing, a guy goes to his cave, one of the basic first chapters of Men Are From Mars, beginning chapters. He goes to work, he comes home, he needs some time to forget the problems of the day because men feel good solving problems. And if you can't solve a problem, what's the next best solution? Take time to forget it. So you need to distract yourself with non-personal activities. Because personal activities like coming home and sharing your feelings or whatever with your partner, that's just going to make estrogen. You can't rebuild your testosterone while you're making estrogen. So you need time out for a little while. And when men would do that, women would think, oh, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care about me, what's wrong? And now she's upset with him. And then when he comes out of his cave, she's upset with him. So he goes back into the cave to try to forget that. So it's disastrous. Women take things personally if you don't understand what's going on. The same thing for a man. He'd come home, wife wants to share about her job. I mean, Bonnie used to come home and she'd say, Oh, the copper wasn't working. Everybody expects me to do everything. There's so many messages I have to get to. She's complaining about her job. And I would say, honey, just quit that job. I'll pay. I'll pay you. I don't need you to work. She said, no, I love my job. So a man has to go, what? You're complaining about your job. But no, she loves her job. And so what I had to learn was how to listen. And I taught all my clients, man, just let her talk, ask questions, help me understand what you're saying better. Tell me how you feel about it. What else? Tell me more. And, in 5-10 minutes, she feels great. And then she gives you a hug and you feel better. If you didn't understand this, she would talk about her problems and you'd interrupt her over and over and say, well, don't worry about that. Well, that's not a big deal. Or you should do this. That's not the solution to what she's looking for at that time. It is good solutions that would work for you, but that's not what she's looking for. What she's looking is to feel heard. And so those are some of the basic ideas of Mars Venus. Now that's for the woman who comes home wanting to talk. But the problem today is when women are on their male side, they don't even know that they need to talk. See, they don't know what they don't know because it's not instinctive. If you're producing male hormones, you just want to go to your cave. You don't want to talk about and share your feelings. So it's important for women to learn. If you're not happy, you don't know what you don't know. And that's what my book tells you. If you're a woman, you got to make these hormones and behaviors can do it. And whenever you're unhappy, for the modern woman, always she's making too much testosterone and not enough estrogen. So how do you do that? If you're a busy woman, you're working in an emergency room as a high stress environment. One of the ladies this weekend, I said, yeah, but she basically, if you anticipate coming home to a loving relationship where you can share your frustrations or disappointments, fears and concerns and have somebody feel empathy for you, just anticipating that produces huge estrogen while she's at work and will keep her stress levels down. Anticipation is very, very important. If you think about creating some more romance in your relationship, men always think they're being romantic. And on Friday night, they'll say to their wife, hey, honey, what do you want to do? We'll do whatever you want. Like that's some great romantic thing. Not romantic at all. A week in advance, and you say, hey, honey, next weekend, let's think about some things we like to do together and come up with something fun that she can look forward to. And looking forward to it all week, we make an extra estrogen. See, it's all for women looking forward to things. Just like for me, when I have work, I look forward to being successful. Already my testosterone goes up. I taught a class this weekend, and that's my biggest out of the bedroom testosterone producer. And I just waking up, I feel fantastic. I'm ready to go because I anticipate all these people having their lives improve, and I did it, and I get the recognition for it. And that's any man feeling that you can contribute and have a positive effect. That's a huge testosterone producer.
So you've lived a life aiming to practice what you preach. Okay. You have 3 grown daughters, 4 grandchildren.
Oh, now 5. Now 5.
Now 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks.
What part of what you preach has been the hardest for you to live up to in your personal life, John?
I'll first of all, I'll say that what's unique about my message is it's not hard. Okay. It's like, you got all these books saying men should never go to their cave. They should always be present for their partners and open their heart for their right. No, I made my message something that I can do. Everything I talk about, I do. It's not that hard to do once you understand it. And then there's room for not doing it even. I say, for example, it's good to listen to a woman, but if she starts to trigger your anger, you need to stop talking. You need to not talk. If a man starts to get angry, that means his estrogen levels are going high and his testosterone is going low. Everybody thinks anger is high testosterone. Well, maybe you have high testosterone as a man, good news. But if you start to feel powerless, like your best effort is not being appreciated, your testosterone starts to go down. That's where she starts to complain about you or argue with you or doesn't, respond the way you wanted to respond when you tell her she shouldn't be upset. So his testosterone will start to go down and his estrogen starts to go high because he's getting emotional. Whenever a man is angry or loving, doesn't matter. Either way, his estrogen's going up. It's just that anger is when his estrogen's going up and his testosterone's going down. And if he talks when he's angry, he'll only have more estrogen going up. So it just gets worse and worse. Wow. So men have to learn and women have to learn the importance of time out. If I start to get angry as a man, I can't listen anymore. Otherwise, I get angrier and angrier and they want to talk. And, and so well, he has to regulate himself. If he starts to get angry, he has to say, time out. I need to think about what you're saying. And we'll talk again tomorrow at noon. Simple as that.
That's
Don't
great advice.
walk away. She freaks out. Oh, does he hate me forever or whatever? No, you say, we'll talk about this. I just need to think about this. You cannot talk if you're a man when you're angry. Now, women, it's good for women to talk when they're angry if a man can hear it without getting angry back. That's where you learn masculine quality of groundedness, stability, and realizing that getting upset is the weakest part of you. So you have a little pride where you say, suck it up and don't get upset. And understand the strategy here. See, the strategy is men only get upset to change them because whatever they said didn't work. But what I'm explaining to men is that what you said didn't work because it doesn't work. What works is to hear her out without trying to fix her, change her, or believe that she's going to stay in this negative state. Women can't stay in a negative state if they can express what they feel and somebody doesn't get upset with them, but is trying to understand what they feel. So it's her journey to come back to her loving self will automatically happen if she starts to express what's going on inside. That's the key. For men, expressing what's going on inside raises your estrogen. It doesn't suddenly give you this huge benefit. I'm not saying men can't do that. They can do it sometimes, but they shouldn't do it with their wives because usually their wives, if you say to your wife, I'm really scared today about going to this seminar, she'll never forget that. She'll say, no, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about going to seminar. It makes them more like a mother. So many women, so you don't know this until you're sitting in front of an audience and you say, how many women, when men start expressing vulnerable feelings, you start feeling like a mother? And they go, yeah. And then you hear women all the time in counseling saying, I have no sexual feelings for him. I feel like I'm his mother. I'm always having to remind him of things and think about things and trying to help him. And you just can't, you can't do too much of that. See, that's your female side. And there's nothing wrong with having a female side if you're a man, but you have to have way more of your masculine side. And your masculine side has the quality of detachment, detached. You can't upset me, but it doesn't mean I'm indifferent. See, most people, when you hear detached, it's like an indifferent guy. This is guys who just shut down. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Stupid. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about be detached from your emotional reactive self and try to step out of yourself into her. Kind of like what sex is. That's what sex is. If we're trying to get out of us and into her. These are all basic biological foundations, which, and I know how hard it is. You asked me if I live my message. So I say, I try to do this. And if I can't do it, I say time out and give yourself time to cool off and think about it and come back. And then you've done that many times. You start to experience that when I listen to her, she doesn't have much to complain about. And now from the women's point of view, I tell women, please learn how to talk to a man about your feelings so he doesn't have to have such a hard time. If you complain about him, it's going to be really hard for him to listen. So don't complain about him. Try that on for a month, women, and you'll see your man's a different man. No complaints at all will bring out the best in him. Initiate sex a bit often, and you'll really have a happy guy. So these are the most important things. Don't complain about me and initiate sex. This is a man's dream.
So your advice to women out there is stop complaining, initiate sex. You'll have better relationships. Work on yourself internally, right? That's important. Yeah. That's super important. What's
Let me back up what you just said. Okay. Work on yourself is a whole nother skill to produce estrogen, which is if you're upset, talk to a girlfriend. If you're upset with your husband, write it in your journal. Come back to feeling good and also and love and forgiveness. So you're not throwing anything on him that he has to change for your well-being. But you can still want him to do something for you. And see the difference between you need to change as opposed to, I would like you to spend more time with me. I like quality time. I'd like you to, not leave your ashes around the house. Pick up your socks, help with the dishes. The little things is what creates turmoil in relationships. So instead of complaining about those little things, learn the art of asking for his help. Asking for a man's help. That's what we're here for, to help. And when we're successful in help, testosterone goes up. And what women are here for is to be helped. You're not here to help us women. You're here to be helped by us. Everybody wants to help, but you help a child, women. That's your nurturing side. That's not him. He's here to help you. You're here to get his help, appreciate him, and knock up his testosterone and make him feel like he's worthwhile. That's what women do for men. And what men do for women is to let them off the hook. You don't have to do everything, honey. I'm here to help you. And women go, oh, that's not my husband. I've heard it a million times. Oh, my husband won't. I said, look at the way you ask. You don't even know how to ask. You complain. And you have to learn how to ask to a man. There's a whole chapter in my book on all the art of asking for help. That's a book in itself. I can summarize that. I can give you one little example. I've got so many examples how to ask for help. He's in his cave. You want help with something. You don't go in there and say, hey, you haven't done this. You forgot to do this. And I still need your help on this. You didn't do that. That's all negativity. He has to go to his cave to get rid of that. He'll stay in his cave forever. Or his cave might be the beer, drinking beer with his friends and coming home late because what he gets when he gets home. So an ask, you say, hey, when you're done watching TV or when he goes to the bathroom, that's a good time when he's moving. You just say to him, honey, when you have a chance, I need your help. He says, what is it? Oh, when you have a chance, it only take 10 minutes. So there's so many ways to ask men in a nice way. I can't give all the examples in a short interview, but here's one. Bonnie used to be so annoyed by me, I'd forget to turn out the lights in the living room because I'd walk through from the bedroom to the kitchen, go through the living room and the hallway, all these light switches in our house. So I just walking through, light would be on. I forget. For years, I forgot. She gets so upset. You forgot. And of course, anytime you're upset with a man for something little, he's just going to dismiss it. It's like, it's not a big deal. What's a big deal? But I would try, but I still forget. So then finally she figured out, there's a lot more to this story, but she figured out, she came in the kitchen one day, a big smile on her face. She said, John, I noticed you turned out the light in the living room. And I just wanted to remind you how much I love it. It's not a big deal, but sometimes you forget and walked out of the room. Notice how you'd feel if she said that to you. Oh, what a great wife I have. Amazing. And then eventually 3 times, and Bonnie has passed. She died. But even still today, as I turn out the light, I think about her with love. You see, as opposed to hitting a light switch thinking, oh, I better turn this off. Otherwise, my wife will disapprove of me. There's 2 ways of managing your partner, with love or with judgment and disapproval and criticism and control. There's a whole nother way to do this, and we can all learn it.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you something. So I believe most of your teachings they always focus on marriage and family relationships. Have you researched much about relationships in the workplace? Because that's always something that people are trying to get their arms around is, how do I deal with men and women in the workplace? I have a lot of women that work for me, John. Sometimes I'm outmanned by the leadership team with women. How do you handle things in the workplace?
I've written 2 books on it. Mars, Venus in the Workplace is one of them. That's the best one. And then another one is Work With Me. I wrote that with a feminist, so that would speak more language that the women might hear. They're both great. The one I wrote alone, I think is even better, but they're both wonderful. So when you talk about in the workplace, you can look at the issues that women have, which we've done, and the issues that men have, and we've done scoring on that, and things that women can learn about men and things men can learn about women. So if you're asking me as a man, how do I work with my team better? I'll have answers for you. If we're having a woman and she's saying, how can I work with my male boss or my coworkers? There'll be different answers. So and you have to go, where do you want me to go with this?
You're very big into
I'll tell you what I think I should know. Okay. With the women team, you need to realize that one of their biggest issues is they don't feel appreciated. They feel excluded. So you need to be more inclusive. Like say you're working with 5 women and you're talking about a problem and 4 of them are answering it and one's not. You have to notice that one woman who's not saying something. They value being heard more than anything.
Right.
And if you don't notice that she's not talking, then you don't appreciate her. So what you do is you say, well, Carol, you haven't said anything. Tell me what you think about this. And then she's been waiting to have somebody acknowledge her, because some women will do that when they start to feel nobody appreciates me. Well, they're testing. And so you would want to include her into the conversation. So that'll be very, very significant. Now, a man doesn't instinctively be that inclusive. Let's imagine you have a team of 10 men and they're all talking, but Bill's not saying anything. Nobody's going to point out to Bill that he has nothing to say. That's embarrassing to him. Bill, you haven't said anything. If he doesn't say something, it means he has nothing to say. So we don't instinctively look for the outlier who's not being included. So women want to be included. Women often, they feel unappreciated just if you don't ask them questions. Okay. Often a man says, what's the result? How did it go? She'll say, well, we got this many people. And you says, wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? That's what you have to do with a woman. How did you do that? And let her say, well, I stayed up really late at night on that one, or I had to talk to so-and-so and they were awful, but I just called somebody else and got the ticket. Okay, whatever it is, they need to talk more about their process to achieve their goal. If I'm a man and I say, look, how much money I made you, you go, great, fantastic, you get your commission. I'm done. I don't need you to know I stayed up late at night and I had problems with this person or that person, or I was sick during the journey. Generally speaking, I'm not going to feel unappreciated if you don't ask me. Many men, though, sometimes if they're more on their female side, at least what they'll do is say, yeah, I did that, but I had to stay late up night. I had to do this and I had to do that. If they want it, they'll ask for it. But a woman doesn't always ask for it. She sort of expects you to ask her questions about, well, how did you do this? And what happened with so-and-so? And I know you were working with this project. It's kind of like with a child. Your children come home from school and you say, how was school? They say, fine. They don't want to tell you anything because you don't seem to be, you have to sort of pull it out of them. I know you're having trouble with that kid. How did it work out today? What did he say? What did you say? You have to have sort of a pre-knowledge of what's going on in their life. And that opens the door for them to talk about it. Otherwise, they don't want to talk about it. And they stop talking about it because when they did talk about it, we mistakenly didn't say, tell me more, help me understand that better. We just gave an opinion. We're always sort of giving a parental opinion. Well, you should do this, or well, that's good, or whatever, rather than drawing them out so you get to know more about their life. Then you can ask specific questions about what's going on in their life. Then they'll share. I remember raising my kids, the 3 daughters. Parents would call me to find out what's really going on. My kids would tell me everything because I wasn't always making them right or making them wrong, basically, or giving advice to them unless they really try to pull it out of me. Then I say, well, what do you think I think? You want them to pull it out rather than you can sense when you're talking to your kids. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Well, part of why they don't want to hear it is there's already a block to sharing because when they have shared things, we're too quick to give our advice on how they could be better. It's all out of love, it's not good communication skill. Kind of the same thing in the workplace with women. And why I compare a woman to a child is because a child, whether it be a boy or girl, up to about 13, they have the hormones of a girl. And then after puberty, boys have 10 times more testosterone. You have all these boys who are more on their female side thinking they're females. Then they give them female hormones. How about giving them a shot of testosterone? Then they'll know that they're a boy. If you want to use hormones for that problem, that's the way to do it. If a girl thinks she's a boy, give her some female hormones, then she'll realize, I like being a girl. Now, I'm not into that being the solution, haven't tested it out, but I'm into behavioral skills. If you have a little boy and he's more on his female side, don't indulge him in talking about his emotions and feelings, period. Don't shame him if he does, but don't indulge it, but actually encourage him and allow him to be with boys, allow him to hang out with a man who's doing something in the world. This is what strengthens masculinity in boys is hanging out and doing things with their father. Why we have so much confusion about that today is, 90%, not 90%, 70% of Black boys don't interact with their fathers at home. They're homeless. They're living with their mothers. And 50% of white boys are living with their mother and there's no man there. And hey, guess what? If you have no man in your house, you can get more money from the government. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. We're giving incentives for women to be single, raising their kids when that boy is not going to get what he needs and that little girl is not going to get what she needs. Little girl grows up, has no trust that you can trust men. Yeah, doesn't have a father was there for her. A little boy has no father to emulate that I can make a woman happy. So what you end up with is commitment issues, relationship issues, just right from that as a major part of what's going on today. Imagine that I've never seen my dad deal with my unhappy mother. If she's unhappy about something and dad's, okay, honey, I'll do this, I'll do that, whatever. They have a good relationship. If I don't see a man doing that and a woman then coming back to full love and forgiveness, then I'm in a relationship with a woman and she gets a little upset about something. I have no picture of what I can do and no knowledge that you can come back with forgiveness and love. So a man goes into a logical conclusion. Well, if I can't make you happy, then why should I be with you? It's just an admission of failure in this relationship. So much of the time, if a man ends a relationship, it's like, hey, logical, and logic is our male side. He'll just logically go, look, if I can't make you happy, why am I wasting my energy here? And a female on her side, she says, I give so much and give so much, I don't get back. Well, she doesn't get back because she doesn't know how to ask, and she overgives because she's on her nurturing side. She's treating him like a child and then gets angry with him. And then doesn't ask him to do stuff. Imagine you're in a relationship where the woman gives you all this love and he doesn't do anything for you. You're training him to do nothing. You have to give love, but also ask for more in a non-demanding way, in small increments with big rewards. These are all there's a lot to asking that I teach in my classes.
So you're very big into health and fitness. What habits do you believe are the most important, John, to live a healthy life?
Okay, if you want to go priorities, don't ejaculate, man. Keep it low.
Don't you think?
Don't do it with yourself. Don't do it with porn. It's the number one testosterone drop.
Okay.
It's ruining everything. It's ruining relationships. And I feel sorry for the women today, but they're having sex with robots as well. They got their little vibrators, toys, and all that stuff. You don't need that stuff. You need love. And so the next hack is when you're making love, you don't just, ideally you can learn to not ejaculate, but even if you ejaculating once a week, that's a good biohack. The next one is when you're having sex, have it last longer. Now, well, you can have it last longer for the woman, so you need enough stimulation so she can be multi-orgasmic, is if when you're starting to get excited, start talking. Most people don't talk. What you do is you discuss before, we're talking about a couple in a relationship, all right? So you have conversation. I heard John Gray talking. He says, it's really good for the relationship if you have expression of love and word. When you use words, the blood flow goes to the front part of the brain. You don't want the blood just down south. You want it to come to your heart and then to your brain. And you have a whole body experience. So what you do is as you start to get turned on, you feel love. Now begin to express love in words. But for the man to say, I love you, for the woman to say, do you love me? Okay, she shouldn't be saying, I love you so much, whatever. No, this is about her receiving and acknowledging her need to receive. And it's basically, do you love me? As she's starting to get turned on, man says, I love you so much. Then she says, how much do you love me? I love you like the moon and the stars. I love you so much. And she says, tell me more. I love you. You're so beautiful. You're so wonderful. You're so kind to the kids. I love you. She says, tell me more. Do you love me? Do you love me? Will you work hard for me? Whatever she feels in her insecurity. See, women have to acknowledge they're all insecure. All men are insecure. We have to find that depth. That's where the love is there. We're looking for someone who will love us just the way we are. Why are we looking? Because we're insecure. And then when we get it, we feel more secure. I look at my bank statement all the time that look what I can do. All right. Why do I need to look at that to feel good? Because I'm insecure inside. We all have that inside. We're always looking for love. For men, love looks how the world responds to me is for what I do, builds up my testosterone. For women, without someone who loves me, not based on what I do, but because of who I am. See, women today are so confused. They're trying to get love by doing like a man. Men in our society get respect. So she goes, if I want respect, I'll have to be like a man. No, that's female empowerment is I get respect by being a woman, by being happy, by being loving, by being fulfilling, by learning to give feedback in a positive way, for asking for what I want, living a life of values, inspiring a man to be better always more and more. That is what the world needs today. Unfortunately, the world doesn't have that today. We've lost that. And we need to find it again. Otherwise, everything's going down into degenerate behavior, to complete degeneracy.
But John, you missed one point. What do guys do to hold out? you talked about the woman. What advice do you give the men out there of not ejaculating so quickly and making it last for their women?
All right, I'll give some advice. So first of all, I mentioned, the average guy who has enough estrogen to fall in love. Okay, there are guys that can't make estrogen, and so they can't ejaculate. So I'm not talking about that category. This is your porn stars and whatever. They can't ejaculate. That's why they want to show he can ejaculate at the end. That's all ridiculous. But the reality is very hard for them to ejaculate. And many times they can't ejaculate in a woman. They have sex and then have to go in another room and masturbate really, really hard to get it to come out. That's a man who doesn't produce estrogen, and he has emotional blocks to intimacy. So he would see a therapist and learn how to express his emotions and feel his need for love and so forth. But the majority of men out there, they fall in love with a woman. They've got high estrogen when you fall in love, and estrogen pushes testosterone down, and that's an ejaculation. You ejaculate when your feelings of love produce more estrogen than your appropriate testosterone estrogen balance. So when estrogen goes higher than testosterone, there's a tension that builds up. All right, this tension is building up. Your masculine is weakening, your feminine is getting too strong. That's an imbalance. It's creating a tension. Ejaculation is a spasm to release the tension. That's all it is. It's a spasm that releases the tension. So when the tension's starting to build up, and this is happening 3 strokes before you ejaculate. Okay, if you're going along, and as a man, if you have a little awareness here, you already see it coming in 3 strokes. I'm going to ejaculate. There's nothing I can do about it, right? So 3 strokes ahead, for some, maybe 5 strokes ahead. If it's 2 strokes ahead, not going to work. You got to at least be 3 strokes ahead of it. At that point, at another time, reflect on the physical movement your body does in order to ejaculate. That is a physical, automatic pelvic movement that releases the tension and ejaculation occurs. So instead of waiting till tension hits the highest level, 3 strokes before, move your body in the same way it would move when you ejaculate. But you don't ejaculate because there's not enough tension to make it happen fully. So instead of waiting for the spasm to occur naturally, just do the movement before. So you're shaking your pelvis, and what the urge to ejaculate now goes away. And then you continue on. And other aspects of men who want to last longer is don't go all the way in right away. It's too much stimulation. What you do is just hover around the entry point, and that's already a big I love you, and then a little bit more communication, and then going a little deeper, gradually getting a little deeper, you get to the G spot, and she'll get all excited, and she can make you ejaculate also. That's why sometimes she's like wanting it to be over. It's kind of like women will start, their passion will start to increase and it's starting to come down. See, it all goes in waves. Everything goes in waves. So when it's starting to go in a wave, her wave will start to go down. And at that point, she'll try to get it back up and get you to ejaculate or get you to pump harder. That's where you go, not yet. Settle down.
It's quite the negotiation.
It's all a negotiation because her body, once you ejaculate, you have to withstand that. You have to shake it off when you start to see that. Sometimes you might need to pause a little bit. Sometimes you just might go shallow. It's harder when she jumps on top of you because you can't regulate her movement as much because you got to shift her movement around the angle of her vagina even. If you're starting to notice that you're 3 strokes away, you got to shake it off. But if she's sitting on top of you, you can't shake it off. So that's the tricky part for men. And then going a little deeper and going a little deeper, then her going more deep, more deep, more deep. So it's a gradual going all the way in. And then there's all the long strokes, thin strokes. Sometimes that's too much stimulation. Then you can come back to little strokes, and then a long stroke. So that's a lot of variety. You have to work with your body. But the key thing is to realize, why does tension build up in sex that causes you to ejaculate? The tension builds up because you're hot and heavy and excited. You're going in, and she can't fully receive. At a certain point, she can't receive that energy. Because see, she said a wave goes up. Now she has to sort of relax a little bit before she can receive more. And so she has to be able to relax. And that's where and the relaxing is her estrogen has to go to a higher level for you to go to a higher level. So it allows that estrogen to go to the higher level to allow your energy to go into her more without feeling the pressure back. Because if you're going in and she's pushing out, you're going to feel more tension. So the idea is her estrogen has to go higher and higher with every stroke. And so what makes her estrogen go higher after the arousal is happening is verbal arousal, which is her feeling my insecurity. If you get this woman, I have no insecurity, there's no way you're going to control yourself. Estrogen is going to shoot up. And this is what happens with couples today a lot, is she's on her male side, so she can't feel her insecurity. And so she's not making enough estrogen. So that's the dynamic, is when she reveals, I need your love. Tell me you love me. How much do you love me? What do you do to show your love for me? And then you can say, oh, I emptied the trash today because I love you so much. I worked so hard today because I love you so much. I love making money so that our life gets better because I love you so much. See, it's just romantic talk. It's a new kind of romantic talk, but it's a woman feeling the need for that reassurance, and women all need it. There's not an exception anywhere. I'm doing this 50 years, but they don't admit it at first. They can't find it. And yet today, they're so far on their male side that the women that come to me, at least, are all saying, I want to be able to find my female side again. It's becoming, I've been teaching this now 40 years. The words are out there where women are saying, I need to find my female side. Good. How are you going to do that? You can't do it alone. Just want you to know. You can start doing it alone, but really what you need is a good hard penis inside of you. And then you'll start to really open up to your female side. Sex is the biggest estrogen stimulator into a woman. And so this, we want to help them to find, but you first got to find the vulnerability. You have to find the safety outside the relationship. If people are sort of in tune with all this knowledge about hormones, about 20 years ago, this big word came out, oxytocin. And they finally did the research on it. I was talking about years before, but it's a safety hormone. When you touch a woman in a non-sexual way, like a massage, or you do something special for them and they feel safe, no pressure to perform, oxytocin gets produced. Oxytocin was associated with lowering stress in women. But the reason it lowers stress is because oxytocin makes a woman feel safe to depend on someone. And it's that depending on someone that raises her estrogen. And it's the estrogen that makes her feel safe, that makes her lower her stress. It's not the oxytocin, it's the estrogen. So and that's what foreplay is, it's the estrogen.
So John, the name of this show is I Own It, which you do. It's owning every aspect of your life. We are all works in progress, as you know that, especially what you do. Share a recent example where you realized you had it wrong and you didn't own it fully.
Well, I own everything fully afterwards.
Well said.
I regret. I'm embarrassed. This weekend, a woman in the class was saying, I watch all your videos online. I've heard your daughter's workshop. I've listened to it twice. I read all the blogs at marsvenus.com. I feel like I hang out with you all the time, John, and now I'm here and present. Is that weird? And then I said, well, it's a little weird. And I regret that completely. It was insensitive of me. She was actually looking for reassurance that it wasn't weird, that it was like nice. And I could have said something nicer, which would be like, well, I'm honored. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful that you share my message with other people. That would have been the right response. But, I don't always give the right response. And I own it, meaning I regret it. I feel embarrassed about it. And I think, how could I have done that better?
So we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. I've been waiting for you to come on. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. So you're now 72 years old, very sexual active. But by the way, there's going to be a lot of people masturbating after listening to this show. It was so hot. The way
take a cold shower, go run outside, don't masturbate. It's the best habit you can ever have.
You kept going. I think it's going to be inevitable with this audience, what's going on here in this show. So
let this be a moment where you give up your addiction to porn and masturbation. Listen to what I'm saying. Anytime you feel like you need to masturbate, get out of bed, put your clothes on, go somewhere, or get into a cold plunge.
The cold plunge, exactly. So, all right. So you're 72 years old. You come in our studio in Laguna Beach. I say, John, lay down on the couch, kick your feet back up, go back to when you're 16 years old. Knowing what you know now, Okay. What advice would you give yourself at 16 with all your knowledge and experience? Like, what would you share with yourself to help you progress in life?
Don't masturbate. But what I'd also, that is the most important thing. But what I would say is don't worry so much. Life will unfold.
Well
And
said.
nobody knows the future, and your future is blessed as long as you put out good energy, and you do.
I love that. So it's our last day on earth together. God forbid, it's just me and you. It's our last meal together. Your decision. What are we eating and what are we drinking?
Well, for sure going to have a root beer float.
Ooh, love that.
And I'll have a steak.
Okay.
And I want to spend time with my kids and family.
Well, it's going to be hard if it's just me and you, but we'll figure that out.
If it's just you and me, we'll talk about our best successes in life and maybe our biggest failures and say, who cares about that? And love ourselves and eat some good food and have a root beer float.
All right. Sounds good. In our studio, John, we have a grand piano, electric guitars, a drum set. If you can bring a band or musician, they could be living or deceased, to walk through our black door in our studio in Laguna Beach and play us a song, your choice. They could be living or deceased. Who would you choose and what song would they play us?
Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, baby. What's Jimmy playing us?
He's playing I Kiss the Sky. What is that one? Which one is that?
Excuse me while I kiss the sky.
That one. Excuse me. Kiss the Sky. You know, it's a sweet, sweet song for me. It was a coming of age song. I had a friend who had the album before it came to America.
I believe that song is called Fire. Let me stand up next to your fire.
No, that's not the one. If I had a little preparation, I would have known. So I can go,
okay.
I can go right now to.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. So, what's the best way for our audience to engage with you and stay engaged with you? Do you have a website?
Martinez.com. I have from time to time, I do workshops here in Mill Valley, California, which is right near San Francisco, and that would be under events. Sometimes I'm doing events in America, but mostly my events are out of the country, around the world. So, but I have online classes, and I have one we talked about today, which is Great Sex, Secrets of Great Sex. But we also have women-only courses that I do with my daughter that I help her to write it. She writes them, Lauren, and I just edit them with her. She won't say anything without my approval. She says, "You have the experience, Dad. Just want to make sure I'm on track here." And so that's called How to Get Your Me Time for Women, which you could translate into how to produce the right hormones at different times of the month. And the most recent one we did was Understanding Men, amazing course for single women or for married women. It's just so powerful to awaken the power of women to get what they need in their relationships and to find a relationship and to recognize the importance of relationships. You know, I've become now, I feel, an advocate for marriage, which is why people are forgetting marriage can be amazing. And I saw the most beautiful marriages this weekend. It was amazing. And I also, after Bonnie has died, I've now found a new partner. I'm married again and have a beautiful relationship. Just to have this knowledge right from the beginning of a relationship is so amazing. Bonnie and I spent 40 years together, in a sense, overcoming the challenges. And I think it was the last 10 years where I really got it right. And we had a really sweet life together.
That's fantastic. Well, John Gray, thank you for joining us. What a pleasure. If you're interested in listening to more episodes like this with this great knowledge and content that John Gray just dropped on us, kick the right-hand button on YouTube and click subscribe. Feel free to click the like button as much as possible. And by the way, keep your hands off yourself and let it go viral. For more information on me, go to benreinberg.com. You can follow me on all social media platforms. And feel free, if you're interested in commercial real estate and learning more about my company, Alliance Consolidated Group of Companies, go to alliancecgc.com. We're the leaders in investing in medical office throughout the United States. Feel free to log on and look into our brand new fund, the Alliance Medical Property Fund. It is the #1 fund in the United States on the market. John Gray, thank you so much for joining us. What a pleasure, my friend. I do need a cold shower after that interview. It was just absolutely spectacular and wild. And thank you so much. It would definitely need you to come back on and touch on some of your other publications and books and teachings. So thank you so much for sharing, John.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.